What's up, guys? Welcome to the In the Blind podcast. Today we have Mr. John Gurney with us, hanging out.
Thank you, boys, for having me.
Yeah, buddy. We appreciate you coming in.
Of course. It's good to be here.
Heck yeah.
Thanks for being here.
Of course.
We were talking earlier about your most recent journey to New York City in an RV.
Riding to New York with my buddy Jason Tardik and a newly adopted dog, which was also a wild card. So he'd had this dog for less than a week, so we really kind of ripped it up there. And I was telling him the way up was smooth. The way back, we bumped into that tornado-ish storm, and took us 3 days to get back. So.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
Good for reality TV.
Yeah,
though,
that's right. Yeah, we were doing a concept for a potential travel reality TV show out of the RV that Jason would host. So this was us dipping the toe in the water. So
that's
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, it was incredibly entertaining just following what you were posting while you were on the way up there,
for socials. I think it's got a good recipe for disaster, which makes good TV.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's awesome. Speaking of TV, I think, we've been friends and known each other for a long time, but it was fun to see like a different side of you on the very cavalier show and whatnot.
My short-lived stint in reality, that was fun. I mean, because at the time I was living over at East Ivy, which I think you guys are both familiar with, but historic property in Nashville that was a wedding venue, and my buddy Ed Clay I was working on his event staff at the time, but the show labeled me as the pool boy.
Right.
So I ran with that, the starving musician that was the pool boy living in the mansion on reality TV was the narrative.
It's interesting how they shape those narratives, man. I'd done a couple auditions, and there's no reality involved. Like, they tell you exactly how they want you to talk, how they want you to act, how they want you to dress. I remember I go to these casting meetings before I would go into interviews or any kind of taping, and a casting director would just change my clothes, be like, "Hey, can you play up your accent?" Yep. They wanted me to be the dumb redneck, and
I think authenticity is so easy to sniff out. Doesn't matter if it's TV or music. So it's like when you do see these like breakout stars, like even my ex Shannon, the reason that it worked was because she was born for that.
Yeah,
she was herself. Like she obviously leaned into the villain thing, but it's like watching her among the cast. It was like seeing an NBA player play in like a pickup game, because she just like. She was able to be herself. She got it. She stole the spotlight.
Yeah,
and so it's like that's the reason to me, like in music too, when you see these people that have the opportunity, it's a little bit of luck, but you also have the opportunity to truly be yourself, and it's like that's when you see shit that really pops off.
That's what's really cool. A lot of the artists that we talked about, or talked with so far, authenticity is what's taken them to where they're at. It's not the playing the game necessarily,
right.
It's tough because you have to play the game these days, without sacrificing your authenticity. Yeah. So like, as somebody who has to navigate that world, how the hell do you do that?
I mean, in terms of like chasing trends, and I was like guilty of that too, because I think there's so much of the pressure too from the labels and the management companies that they want you to do whatever's hot, whatever's current. There was a Keith Urban quote that's one of my favorite, and he's like, country music is like a seesaw. He's like, when the trend is up here, if you're trying to chase, by the time it tips, you're going to be completely on the opposite side of what's going to be
You're too
hot.
late. Yeah.
So you're better off just staying in your lane the whole time and staying on that side, because it's like if you keep chasing, you're never going to hit it.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy, actually.
I mean, I can identify with that. Just even in art, my
and everybody's guilty of it. Like, I mean, everybody's like, and it's like it takes time, and it's like you want to make everybody happy. It's like you don't really know, So that's at least where I was, where it was like listening to too much outside pressure and thinking that everybody else knew what they were doing. And like the longer you're in Nashville, you're like, wait, nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about.
You're so right
for that, dude. Yeah.
You have an NR guy tell you to, all right, we need to be chasing this sound or this, and we're always like, come on, let's just be us. Yep. And I think it's come back around cyclically
and now it's
multiple
like they're
times.
Playing acoustic tracks with like no drums on like top 40 pop stuff right now. Or it's like that's unheard of like 7 years ago. So
yeah, things have changed a little bit.
I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's all cyclical. Where it's like whether it's fashion, music, it always comes around. So that's the cool part and the fun part of like playing the quote unquote game.
Yeah, I'm still stuck in the '90s. Like
Hey.
I'm a child of the '90s.
But
Like
but you're back.
I still exactly, bro. It came back around, and I never stopped. You know, like, and my wife gives me a hard time for the mullet, and you know, I'm like, if you'd have known me when I was 10,
Yep.
this is what I would have looked like.
I grew up with a rat tail. I had a full-on rat tail
I had
until
one
I
at
was
one
like
point,
12.
Nice.
I got sent home from school one day because I took a comb and twisted it up in my rat tail so much I couldn't get it out. And then it was like the most devastating thing because I got home and my great aunt that raised me was like, honey, I don't know, we're gonna have to cut that out. And so they had to cut my rat tail off, dude, and I was
A
devastated.
piece of you died. A piece of you died with the
Literally,
rat tail.
it went with the rat tail.
It's like Samson and Delilah.
That's
You know,
right.
All your strength went
I
with
still
it.
miss it because all the hair that's falling off the top and the back of my
Kept
head.
it in a little Ziploc baggie. You still got the little rat tail.
Yeah, it's in my my time capsule. Somebody's gonna pull that out one day and be like, "Dude, what the fuck is this?"
Show it to your firstborn.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, chasing, you're always gonna be behind. You just have to be yourself and stick to it, and then usually it'll come around to you.
Yep.
Did the reality TV stuff open up any doors for you musically as far as releasing stuff,
Yeah,
or just a fan
definitely.
base, or?
It definitely did. So I got lucky. I was fortunate in the fact that even before the show came about, that was the same timeline that I was ready to put my first songs out anyway. So I pulled them and waited probably about 6 months to time it up with when the show was going to come out.
Okay.
And it was during that time that do you know Todd Thomas from Curb? So Todd and he was managing me at the time, and him and Chase Lauer, and Todd was really close with a lot of the Spotify people, and at the time when like John Marks was running the show and doing a lot of that, and so Todd opened a ton of doors, and I was fortunate enough to have a lot of success. The Hot Country playlist at the time when the show came out, and that kind of catapulted streaming numbers and all that kind of stuff, and was very, very fortunate.
Yeah.
But I was also very spoiled because the first couple songs that I put out immediately went on that, and I was like, this is easy. Like, and then now rebuilding from there is makes you definitely appreciate the game.
It's awesome. Todd's one of my favorite people in the world.
He's the best. He's the best.
I've known him for, I think, 18, 19 years now. I think we met him out in California at the beginning of our career.
One of the sweetest people in the music industry.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I'm thrilled for the success that he's had.
That's right.
He hasn't changed. He's still one of the most down-to-earth, nicest dudes I've ever met.
He might be moving back to Nashville. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's the rumor. We'll see.
That'd be good.
He's been out in Oregon.
Yeah.
But
Man, yeah, come back to Nashville.
yeah. I mean, I'm even honored being on here with the strong lineup that you guys have had. So
Oh man,
I
we appreciate it.
you.
We're honored to have you, man. You know, for us, we want people with a good story to tell. You definitely have that, you know, and all the other side of that too is like, we want good people, you know, like good folks, and you know, you check that box as well. You always been
Almost
super
12 years calling losers second home and the winners and all this stretch. I mean, because for a while we had the house right behind Losers, that was above Cornman building back there.
Where the high rise is now?
Yeah, where the high rise is.
Where everything in this town is like?
We had a summer where there were about 5 of us living in what should have been maybe a 1 or 2 person. And those were my glory days of Nashville.
That's awesome. I'm sure you got some good stories from those days that you probably can't tell.
Yeah, baseball throwaway from Losers is trouble.
Yeah, I can't imagine being that close. Like, me and Steven had a couple houses over in East Nashville, and same thing, like 5 or 6 of us living in each house, and somehow we made it from here back to there every night.
Yeah.
We could barely walk. There a couple nights, like me and Steven were talking about it a couple weeks ago, where I would hold one side of the steering wheel and he would hold the other side. And I'd like cover one eye just so he could get home. Only ever had one wreck, and it was in the Jack in the Box drive-through. He let go of the steering wheel, and I slammed into one of those yellow poles.
Oh my! Well,
that's pretty amazing. You know, you brought up Losers. pretty crazy. Like, it may be the best networking venue for musicians, songwriters, artists in the country.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know any other place where you're going to walk in and there might be like the president of Sony, the president of William Morris, Kid Rock, Post Malone, and Peyton Manning,
Yeah.
you know, all at the same time. And then they're just hanging out, like in the most candid environment, you know, because like, come to Losers, for one, like, you know, what we do with that, we lower expectations off the bat. The place is called Losers. So if you're going to come in and be uptight, it doesn't really work, you know? So like when the celebrities do come in, I almost feel like it pulls their guard down.
Absolutely.
And then it's just a cool thing, you know? And then, you know, going back to the shows that we used to host here, it was like a networking event, you know, like you can meet other artists and meet other songwriters to work with and meet all the great studio musicians, the guys that you want on your masters. And there's nowhere else like that, dude. Like, there's nothing like it.
I felt fortunate that I felt like I caught that like last tail end of like the true Nashville. Like I moved here 2012, and 2012 to like 2017 ish was like, to me, I mean, obviously I wasn't here, but it was like, that was like where people truly had their guard down. Nobody cared. There was obviously cell phones, but it wasn't like
it is, yeah.
And it's like,
and it was
just
really
feel
just Facebook.
Fortunate that like I kind of feel like I saw that last little glimpse of like the glory, you know, the stories that you hear from.
Because it's definitely changed. It has definitely changed. You know, obviously camera phones and social media has changed everything and every facet of life. But you know, I've been in the bar business here since '99, and we started on 2nd Avenue at a place called Bar Nashville. And this is a place where, you know, when I describe it to people, I'm like, have you ever seen the movie Animal House? Like, that's what it was like. It was like a toga party one night, and the next night we're setting the bar on fire, and then the next night, you know...
And it was funny.
There's a naked chick on the sidebar.
Tuesday and Wednesdays were literally the only days you had to recover because there was shit
going on every night.
Every other single
And it was
night
cool because there was like each place had a night. And so you went here on Thursday, you went here on Wednesday, you went here on Sunday.
It's amazing that anything got done.
It really is. It really is. But that's also a way, you know, like, I think it turns into good art.
Yeah.
Like when everybody's life is crazy. It makes for good art. Like, I mean, it does.
I mean, sorry to interrupt.
No,
so many relationships that I still have were formed here next door. I mean, I remember one of the first times I ever came into Losers, like, I think it was Bo Martinovich, who was working at Sony back then, or Columbia, or still is. You know, he was in here with Miranda Lambert. And then a couple hours later, still sitting in the bar, and then see Toby Keith walk in, stand behind the bar with Steve and Irv for 4 or 5 hours and just hang out. And nobody bothered him. Nobody made him feel uncomfortable. It was awesome. It was the only place in town that was really like that.
That like feeling of awe, like I try and like remember that and not to lose that, because I do specifically like remember coming to like first Whiskey Jam, first time in the Losers, seeing these people, and it's like you see like bigger than life, all this stuff, and it's like it's easy to like lose that feeling that made you fall in love with Nashville and the music and all this stuff in the first place. So it's like I do try and like, we get so spoiled even with going to shows and seeing all this stuff, and it's like every once in a while I try and like really remind myself where it's like get those goosebumps feelings, and you're like, this is like what it felt like.
My dad I grew up, he was really great friends with Steve and Irv growing up, so I've known both of them since I was a little kid. And then obviously Irv is a legend and you know, just an incredible human being, was an incredible human being in his own right. But you know, my first concert was standing on stage at a George show. That is not the typical first concert experience for most people. That's amazing. So like I was very spoiled and very blessed, you know, from an early age to have relationships with those guys. And then over the years, you know, it's like you said, I have an appreciation for just being a fly on the wall because I'm not a musician. I don't write. So I don't talk shop with any of these guys, you know, like what I talk to them about is like, they like to hunt, you know, they like to golf. I talk to them about their hobbies because those are the things I have in common with them. I don't know shit about music other than I know how to play songs. I'm a DJ.
There you go.
But
that's refreshing to the people you're talking to because they're burned out on talking about music anyway.
Well, that's the other thing is like, you know, it's got to be a genuine. I did a podcast for my friend Nick Hyder, and he asked me, he said, how do you He's like, you're friends with a lot of celebrities. How do you manage that? How do you? And I was like, well, bro, it has to be authentic, first of all.
Don't overthink it. Rule one.
Like, if you were with your buddies, you wouldn't be at the bar and be like, bro, let me get a picture to send to my mom.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucking weird.
Yep.
So, like, it's weird to them, too.
Or
like,
be like, I have this done song idea, where it's like, it would be like, I have this halfway done business pitch for a new bar. You wouldn't like lead with that to
and you don't
Earth.
consider that that's probably, you know, that you're
true.
the fucking 3,000th person who said that to them, you know? Like, so, you know, being in a place where those people get a little bit of grace and no one bothers them, it allows them to let their guard down. And then you're in a freaking bar and Toby Keith is up there playing songs
and nobody might not even be paying attention half
exactly
the time.
a 7-foot ceiling, you know, like it's a cool, really cool thing, you know. And what Steve and Irv built over there, those stories and stuff, and the brand probably last long before we're all still here.
Well, they did such a good job making artists feel comfortable. Coming here,
100%.
and you felt,
you know,
you felt safe, even if people are taking pictures. If people do want autographs, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, but there's not like a, you know, preconceived kind of feeling. Oh, if I'm going to go here, I'm going to have to do this. I think people
the
came
preconceived
here
notion is
felt comfortable.
If I come here, I'm going to be safe.
Yeah.
That's the preconceived notion. I think that's why, you know, all those guys, you know, make us a regular stop, you know, and but it's been really cool, you know, just being, like I said, being a fly on the wall, you know, like Toby Keith wouldn't know who I am, but I've heard some really cool freaking stories, you know, like a lot of those guys wouldn't know who I am, but I've sat around and listened to some really cool stuff. And it's, you know, we've just been blessed to be in Nashville at the right time. And, you know, Nashville's, you know, especially, I mean, when did you move here?
I was here 2012, but coming here because I went to school, University of Missouri, so every opportunity I had, I was only 4. I was like every weekend was just trying to come down here. And,
but you think about how much the city's changed, you know, since 2012. I mean, just since then, it's crazy. Like, you know, the last 13 years, it's a different town.
I didn't realize you'd been here since 99.
Yeah, bro.
The bar industry is now, I mean, we're a real hospitality spot now.
Well, and like a food destination, you know, like we have, it's wild, you know, like when I started in the bar business, everything was on 2nd Avenue. And the only thing that was really, I mean, Roberts was there, Legends Corner was there, and Tootsie's was there. Fiddle and Steel, or Second Fiddle and Steel was on 2nd Avenue, I think. But anyways, maybe Printer's Alley, I don't know. But anyways, nothing was really on Broadway. Nobody went to Broadway except for old people and tourists. And then at night it was homeless people and prostitutes. And so 2nd Avenue was where everything was at. And it, like, all the big bars were on 2nd Avenue. So just to see in the transition from, like, now 2nd Avenue is kind of, you know, after the bombing, a lot of it was closed and it was tough for those guys to like get back going up there, but they were already kind of on the downward taper. So I hope, you know, with all the renovations that have done and all the construction that's been done, that they can rejuvenate 2nd Avenue, because back in the day, you know, that's where all the history was at. And my opinion, what they should do is they should put the money into 1st Avenue. Put all the entrances to all those bars on the riverfront and make it a riverfront. And, you know, like if you go to San Antonio, the Riverwalk is huge. Like, you can use that and use that.
Wasn't that part of that Oracle deal? Is there Oracle's developing, but that's closer to
But that's
Germantown.
East Bank. They're on the other side. But I mean, I think that's a awesome idea. You know, we wasted all this waterfront real estate downtown with like industrial, like a pile of steel, you know, like a 40-acre pile of steel and a bunch of industrial stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is the most prime real estate in the entire city.
Well, that's what's cool about Savannah too. All those bars right down there on the waterfront. So
yeah, 100%.
I think it'd be huge.
But yeah, if you moved all that to the waterfront, it would rejuvenate that area. You know, you could still have entrances on 2nd Avenue, obviously, but like make the storefronts.
What's your take on closing through traffic on Broadway? I know that everybody has argued.
It's
about
terrible,
this.
And I'm going to tell you why. And it's very easy for me to explain, in my opinion, as a hospitality guy. I'm down there. This is 6 months ago at 11 p.m. We just got out of a concert. And so I walked out of Bridgestone and we went up to 5th and Broadway. And because I was going to Pushin' Daisies to see my boy Chase. And I looked down the street. And my wife was with me. And I was like, look at this shit. And she's like, yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, I'm going, there's 30,000 people in the street. So before that was open, where were the 30,000 people? In the bars.
Yeah.
So now you can come downtown, you can go park by the courthouse and park for free. You can drink out of your trunk all night, and you can walk up and down the street, creep on all the girls you want to creep on, and listen to all the music you want to listen to. Yep. You can buy weed out there. Like, you know, I was like, man, like the bars that are struggling, if you took all these people and put them inside, nobody's struggling anymore. So for me, it was a terrible idea. But, and I'll say this because I don't really care about voicing my political opinions. Our mayor doesn't care about Broadway.
Right.
He has no interest in it being successful down there. If it turned into all hotels and shops, he'd be happy with that. If it was no party down there at all. Yep. Which is insane because we have no state income tax. Right. And that street, that 5 blocks carries the load.
Right.
And it's primarily paid by people from other states.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as someone who is a resident here,
that's a win-win.
Your business plan is fucked if you're going to alienate those folks.
Right.
So, you know, I think he's doing what he wants.
Right.
Whatever. This was a previous mayor. I drove by, it was during pandemic, and Mayor Cooper, which was this guy, was basically his protege. Mayor Cooper was out doing an interview in the middle of like 8th Avenue in Germantown, like right by the baseball field. And like, I rolled my window down as he's like talking to the news. And I'm like, Chicken Cooper. And you can just see the news people are like, oh, what the? And then he's like, and I'm like, yeah.
Gotta redo it.
Like, I don't care.
Fix it in post.
But exactly. But yeah, like I just, you know, the city does, if the people in charge don't care about that down there, then it's going to continue to be like that. You know, it's sad. I was talking to some of the cops down there. I think they got 6 cops for those 5 blocks. There's 100,000 people. 6 cops are supposed to manage 100,000 people.
So they're just setting them up for failure.
Yeah. I mean, and like, all it takes, you know, like when that Riley kid disappeared.
Yeah.
You know.
That was a Missouri kid too.
Bro, that's the last thing I can tell you as an operator and as somebody who knows a lot of these business owners down here. That's the last thing they want to happen because we want people to come here and have a blast. We want them to go home and have with coffee pot moments. Like, dude, you're not going to believe what we saw in Nashville. Dude, you're not going to believe the time we had. Like, those are the stories that we want to give people. And if we're all being honest, you know, obviously there's a fiscal reward. We want to make money. But I think the thing that is fulfilling about this business is walking into your room and seeing it full of happy people.
100%.
That's where you get the reward in here from our business, because I know that alcohol is not good for everybody. I know that being out till 3 a.m. is not good for everybody. But when you look around in a room and you see all those smiling faces and you see, 400 people singing at the top of their lungs and living on a prayer.
That's right.
It's pretty fucking awesome.
Country music, baby.
Yeah, and it's rock and roll. You know, like and why you'd ever want to diminish that or take it away, I don't know.
I mean, overall, from the straight volume of tourists and traveling that we had to Nashville, safety overwhelmingly, I think, has been great. Like that's the part that it's like when something horrible happens,
that's
like
all they
that gets
report.
the microscope. But overall, I mean, I think hats off to the police that are down there because it's like relatively safe. I mean, overall.
I mean, they're undermanned.
For the volume of people, it's impressive that they can keep it on the rails like they do.
It really is, especially with how diverse. If you go down there, bro, it's very diverse. Like there's people of all walks of life, all colors, all belief, belief backgrounds of belief. It's a cool thing. Like I've talked to some industry, hospitality industry folks about Nashville and Broadway a bunch of times. And I always tell them, they'll be like, oh, but New Orleans. And I'm like, yeah, for a week.
Right.
For Mardi Gras.
Right.
We're Mardi Gras.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah. I was like, there is, and not just in the United States, there's nowhere else in the world like this. I heard I read an article, and I might have been in the scene. I can't remember, but they compared Nashville to Paris in the Roaring '20s. The way Paris in the Roaring '20s exploded and it was all the theater people, you know, like when they first when theater really started to blow up. So it was all actors.
Yep.
It was artists like Van Gogh and
Right.
all these people moved to Paris. And I'm not sure if Van Gogh even lived in that time, but I'm just using his name as an example. So any of the fact checkers,
buying it.
any of the fact checkers out there, you're welcome to fry me on that one. But you know, I was like, man, it's a really interesting comparison because that's, you know, the art and that lifestyle is what's brought everyone here.
Competitiveness, the camaraderie, that is what makes
and
it.
then what you get when you get all those really talented people in one place is some really cool shit.
Yep. Collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, that's why you have Ernest and Morgan and Post Malone, you know, working together. Luke Combs, all these guys working together is because of the environment that is cultivated in this city.
Because you're not going to see that in pop music, and it's like all these pop acts get success, and they're like, wait, this is like cool. Everybody's not trying to stab me in the back here. I can actually come here and work and not have the pressure, especially with Ernest and those guys. Like half the time they'll go in and not even feel the pressure of writing a single. They're just like kicking around in the studio and hanging out. And it's like that's where those beautiful moments come, because you don't have this looming pressure.
We got to write a number one.
To get that all the time.
Well, it's like, such a, like you said, it's a laid back vibe compared to LA and New York, where everything is so task oriented, and all right, we got 3 hours, we got to churn this out. And even just the way a lot of these guys like to work, it's like they'll go to the studio at midnight, works. And you know,
for some guys it works, and hats off to them. But it's like it's certainly not my bread and butter either.
Well, I mean, I think you're a creator. You don't clock in to do art, bro. Like you do that as it comes to you. You know, and if your heart's not in it at the moment, what comes out is probably not going to be super great. So yeah, I think, you know, Nashville as a city is really maybe the best home for that in the country right now. And it's like you were saying, like I'm
never leaving.
You don't see the collab. You don't see the collabs with pop, but you'll see more and more country artists collabing with rappers.
Yep.
And I mean, it's happening all the time now. And like
what I think is interesting is even without the crossovers, you're seeing more and more country music in the top all genre. It's more Billboard top 100 country songs than there's ever been now. It's like the state of country music is
phenomenal,
alive and well right now, and anyone that says otherwise is like, because even if it's not the quote unquote pop stuff, it's like the best Texas stuff is coming right now. That's the best state. I think of female artists right now too. It's like you got your Ella Langleys, you got Megan Maroney, you got like all these girls coming up that are like headlining festivals and stuff now too. Where it's like this. Overall, I think this is
and
the
they
best.
Sound country.
Yeah.
Like
it's a true representation of the genre. And I think it's an exciting time.
And I think the genre as a whole is more diverse than it's ever been. I mean, I remember, you know, when I first came to town, it was the majority of the acts were male solo artists on the radio, and you know,
bro country.
To get Carrie Underwood even on the radio was a big deal back then. And I remember how hard they had to work for most female artists. Even hearing Bo talk about, you know, working Miranda's records and stuff. And I think it's such a, I don't know, like Nashville is a melting pot and people come from all walks of life, but I think country music is as well. I mean, because it's a very broad format, and there's different subgenres within country that are now accepted by country radio and by the streaming platforms. I think it's huge because everybody has a place and everybody can carve out their niche, and it's a beautiful place to be.
It's like it's just the people, the fans can choose. It's like, I mean, the radio is obviously still king, but it's like, I mean, it's dwindling.
Yeah, it's not the only tool. Whereas it used to be, you had to have, you know, the label machine behind you. And
realistically, I believe more people will go to streaming for their music than the radio. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of old folks out there that probably still listen to the radio that I don't, you know, talk to all the time and whatnot. But like, I don't know anybody that still listens to the radio unless it's like satellite radio.
Yeah.
It's funny is like when they come and try to sell me radio advertising now, I'm like, you guys should just eliminate this position. I mean, no disrespect. Like, it's not going to make you any money.
I remember when iTunes first started, though, like all the radio program directors were like, radio will never die. But the label side of it was saying, it might if we let this get too big. But I mean, I still think there is a place for radio, and there's still obviously enough people that do consume their music via the radio that it's a viable
right. And
to
country
keep
country
pushing.
music will certainly be the last to hold
Yeah,
on to that.
absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yeah, I think there's so many people, especially
Yeah.
across the Midwest,
Yeah.
that are just getting in their truck and turning on the radio and listening
Never,
to whatever it is
the,
that's on
the
there.
radio station hasn't changed in
In
20
years.
years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's my uncle to a T. Like,
Really?
yeah, I don't think he ever changed it ever. But back in the day, so 95.5.
It's a good line in the song right there. Talking
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
We'll
get
give you- we'll
our
give you
credit.
credit
Right
for
there
that.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's crazy how, I've been hearing for the last 15, 16 years, oh, it's going to go away. Radio,
Right.
it's dying.
Yeah.
And somehow it's not. And it's still, like we've talked about, like it's still paying the writers better
Right.
than streaming is. It's
Yeah.
it's
Well, it's
better
t-
for the artists also.
Streaming
It's-
is a joke when it comes to paying the writers.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked to Trent Tomlinson, and
Yeah.
whenever he told me that, in case you didn't know, was it 15 times platinum?
something like that. No?
Over a billion
Crazy.
streams.
Yeah.
And he's made less than $100,000 off that song.
It's crazy.
And I was like, just floored. I'm like,
Yet made millions off of the radio
Yeah.
airplay.
Yeah.
So,
billions of,
Right.
of stream or
Yeah.
billion streams and 15 times platinum, and you made 100K, less than 100K off. That's
And
insane.
even in Trent's numbers, I think on the YouTube thing are even more staggering. It's
Yeah.
been played like 1 billion times
Yeah.
or some stupid number, and the check was literally like $1,500.
Yeah.
It's like it's insane.
Which-
insane.
it should be a crime.
yeah,
Is what I mean. You're stealing from the writers, in my opinion. Like wherever, because the money's going somewhere.
yeah.
Somebody's getting the money.
And that's not one that has a crazy split. There's only 4 3. Well, and Kyle Schlinger only had 10%
Right.
on that song.
I was
so
about to
there's,
say, yeah.
they're splitting
Three
30%. That's a good chunk of that song. It's
Big
not like
time.
there's 10 writers
Right.
on that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
But
Was it just Trent, Tyler, and
oh,
Brett?
and Brett and Kyle.
Kyle,
So there's
yeah.
4, but Kyle was
Yeah.
like track guy. I mean, I think that was his split, but yeah,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
got slightly less. But yeah,
Unbelievable
Yeah, it's
song.
wild.
yeah. What a good one to be on though.
Yeah,
I-
seriously.
I'd take it.
Yeah, dude. Give me 115 times
Yeah.
platinum. And then
Yeah, what? There's only like 11 diamond country songs in history, and they've
It's
got.
one of them.
And now Luke's got, I think, 3
3
of
of
them.
them. Yeah.
Well, I saw he just eclipsed a billion streams on 2 songs. So he has 2
nuts.
songs that have over a billion streams. I
crazy.
think he's the only artist with 2 songs
Yeah.
that have over a billion streams.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's
Nuts.
nuts. Another great guy with a really
Oh,
good
yeah.
story. Came to town and probably didn't think he was going to make it for a while.
Right.
And,
And he was in the age of the bro country, like the G.I. Joe country.
The
was
skinny
the other term.
jeans
There was
and-
like all like good looking, muscular, like the
Yep.
Sam Hunt, Brett Young era, and then Luke kicked the door down and
Yeah.
changed the genre forever.
I mean, he did. He really did. And another solid ass human being.
Cream the crop.
Yeah,
I mean, that's part of why it worked too. He never changed what he was from day one.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's still the same.
Yeah.
And
We have we were in Key West with him and his wife and his wife's family. It was his sister-in-law's 30th birthday, and Jenna, and we went to a lesbian karaoke bar in Key West. So you guys have been to Key
Yeah.
West. I know you guys know the drill down there. And he sang Tennessee Whiskey. And I'm not going to say what
way.
this lesbian chick said to me about him on the podcast, but it was one of the most off-color remarks.
Wow.
And Nicole's right next to
Yeah,
me, so she
Yeah.
heard the whole thing. And it was hilarious. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm at a lesbian or gay karaoke bar in Key West with Luke Combs singing Tennessee Whiskey.
Sounds like a setup to like there's a punchline.
And no one knew who he was.
Yeah.
Like, not one person in
That's
there
amazing.
knew who he was. There was not one camera.
Not his demographic.
No, not one camera out. Like, nothing. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, this would never happen anywhere else.
Yep.
Like, he could never do this anywhere else. If he did this at any other bar, it would be chaos.
Right.
But yeah, he was such a good sport, man. We had a
That's
we had a great time down there. I think he was actually happy to have me because I'm old, and he doesn't want to go places because it's hard for him to,
Right.
and I don't want to go places because I'm old.
So
So
you became
me and
fast
Luke
friends.
basically sat at the condo with each other every night while all the
And
girls
let
and
him
everyone.
have a ladies trip.
Yeah, we got drunk, and like the first night, he was like, "Dude, thank God you stayed." He's like, "Because if I'd have been here by myself, my wife was gonna be pissed." And I was like, "Oh, dude, I'll stay every night. I don't care."
Just one of the boys forever.
Yeah,
I think
no
the first
doubt.
time I ever heard him live was in Key West at one of the
Yeah.
Songwriters Festivals.
Yeah.
And I think I remember went to see Taylor Phillips,
Yep.
and they were playing
That
Hurricane.
was around it was Taylor Phillips, Kane Brown, and
Yeah.
Luke Combs, and then we had just written a song. I actually got up with that round and played.
Really?
It's like one of the coolest pictures. It's like us four. It was like the midnight round at
Yeah.
wherever. I guess
Because I think that was one of the first times I ever met you. Also,
And so, you guys were hosting that
Yeah.
you had a house down there. That was
because I remember Kane Brown showed up to our house.
Yeah.
Just kind of super quiet, just sat on the couch and didn't say a word to anybody. Then 6 months later, he started
Right.
blowing up, and one of the biggest
Well, that's another
superstars on the
person.
planet.
Like, he was before Instagram. Like he got his start really through Facebook. I remember
Man,
like
he
when the
started that whole
Trend,
of
yeah.
signing kids off Facebook.
and I mean it went.
Yeah.
He's got had a hell of a career. I'm not telling you how many number ones he's got,
Yep.
and I know Taylor Phillips has written a few of them for him.
A lot of them.
Josh Hogue.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's crazy. Like the guys that you guys have had the opportunity to kind of come up with and see like what they've turned into.
Yep.
I mean, entertainer of the year and just all the stadium
even
shows
from the
and-
writers too. It's like seeing that was like Taylor Phillips now, however many.
Oh,
number
bro,
ones
I think he was nominated for CMA
Yeah,
Songwriter of the Year. I
It's
mean,
crazy.
and I love Taylor Phillips to death. He's like
Yeah.
one of my favorite human beings. Him and I are
too.
really tight, and it didn't start out that way. Taylor is
He's
could be
got a
an
loud
could
personality.
be acquired taste, But my wife and I have a picture of us skipping down Broadway holding hands, and it's probably like the gayest photo I've ever been in. And it's
You and Taylor?
and it's really weird because it's with Taylor Phillips. And like, if you knew Taylor Phillips, this is not a video
not-
that Taylor
yeah,
Phillips would
yeah.
be in. But we're literally like holding hands, skipping down Broadway,
That's
like a
awesome.
couple gay guys.
I remember, I think it was the year before that we had that house. We were staying at the Casa Marina down in Key West. And
Okay.
we were all hanging out in the pool. Like, I remember my wife was with me, and like, I saw you and Chase Lauer walk through like that entryway, and you guys had like a crew of like 20 people with you, and I was like, who the hell are these people? Like,
Our entourage
yeah.
rolling
I think
deep.
Shannon was with
That's
y'all,
funny.
and Lauren and Brittany and
That
everybody.
was the Key West days where one year we took a Sprinter van with like 16 of us all
Really?
crammed in one van and just raged for a week.
Dude, it was,
I haven't been down there in probably 6 years.
Yeah, neither have I.
Last time I was there, I was on a cruise that stopped. It was Bud Light cruise or something that stopped there that I was like playing on. Got off, went straight to Smoking Tuna, and they closed it.
Oh, really?
It's not there.
Yeah,
That was
I
like
knew it was
that was
closed,
like
yeah.
the mecca
Oh, shit, yeah.
of, and like Charlie who owns Smoking Tuna was like one of the organizers. And
Right.
I'm like bringing everybody. I'm like, it's right around the corner, and it was like
Get
boarded
there,
up, and I'm like, no,
oh, that sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
Dude, that was one of my favorite weeks of the year, and then
Yeah.
I stopped drinking and went back one time sober. I was like,
Yeah, you
it just
can't.
doesn't have quite the same,
Yeah.
charm that it did when you're just walking down Duval partying every night. So
yeah, it's definitely an alcohol friendly
yeah,
island in general.
for sure. It's a hard place to be if you're
Yeah,
sober.
yeah.
I mean, I know I have some friends that live there that are, and I guess it's different when you live somewhere
Yeah.
like that. But for me, I guess just I'd always associated it with just hardcore partying. And
Well, that's how people look at Nashville coming here.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
how do
for
you
sure.
live here? I'm like, well, stay away from downtown.
yeah,
You have
there's
a
more
few
than just
years
more than just
where
Broadway.
You like do it, and then you realize there's
Yeah.
no way to keep that shit up, and it ain't worth it. And
It makes me feel old, like, because like I say the same thing people used to say to me, like, "Oh, you should have been here 15 years
Right,
ago."
right.
And Broadway
And
is
yeah, I
actually
do
a
have to
different
catch
thing.
myself saying that too, but it's like, I don't know, or I'm like, even what I said earlier, like I caught the last tail end of
Yeah.
the golden years. I just sound like I'm the old man on the soapbox.
But I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. Like, it was a different era,
Yeah.
and
it was
cool to see the change. And obviously Nashville growing the way it has is huge for the city, and tourism is just through the roof, and it's incredible.
Yep.
I mean, So you got to kind of embrace it.
Right.
I don't want to be one of those stick in the mud. You know,
Yeah,
I wish it was like it used to be. But there were some really cool things. Like you used to be able to go to all the bars on Broadway, and Legends had a certain vibe. Layla's had a certain type of band that played there. You know, Second Fiddle, the stage had, you know, an artist that would do like a couple month residency kind of thing, and like that's why I went down there.
The 80s nights at the stage back in the day, was it like Wednesday?
Yep.
It was like one of the greatest things in town.
Really?
Like I would go out on a Wednesday on purpose to just go to that.
I mean, I remember when I first moved here, Chris Weaver kind of had his thing down
Weaver's
there,
still
and
down,
like,
man, he's still.
Yeah, he's
I
back
love
down
it.
there
Like,
again.
because I had friends in from out of town, and I was like going through and seeing who was playing. I was like, Chris Weaver, you gotta go. Like,
and
he's
he
awesome.
still puts on one of the
Dude,
best shows
it is
that you can see down
incredible
there.
what they
You
do.
can
They've
sing the
got,
phone book, and I'd listen to it.
We were booking him in Vegas, and I sent him out, and he went as a solo, and it's a tough gig at Losers. You sing twice a day, so it's 4 hours and 3 hours, so it's 7 hours of singing a day, and he did a run out in Vegas, and then, you know, of course, my people in Vegas are calling me like, that guy was unbelievable. Let's get him back as much as we can. Da da da. I called Weaver, and Weaver's like, hey man, no offense, that shit's a young man sport. He's like, I can't do that shit no more. He's like, I can't sing that much a day, you know, 7 hours a day. And I was like, dude, totally understand.
Well,
I was
he's
like,
such a powerhouse vocal. He doesn't have like a 70%. Like,
No,
you know,
right.
like
No,
like
he
like in my
goes.
mind, I'd be like trying to save my voice the whole time, and he's like
Doesn't.
belting out the first song.
yeah.
But he's got such an incredible voice. Like one of my favorite stories was next door. I remember it's probably 2 a.m, and he was just on a stool by himself. Somebody was playing guitar next to him, hammered off of his ass, and just rocking back and forth on the stool, like just but still singing his absolute tail off, being 3 sheets to the wind. And then end of the last song, he kind of leaned back and he fell off the stool and hit his head on the wall behind him.
Well, he's another one of those people that, like, how he doesn't have a career as an artist, I have no idea, because he's so freaking talented. But that's Nashville as well, you know, like there's a lot of people here that are super talented that'll never you'll never hear of them.
Dave Bournet, who played for years, you know, Dave. Dave's one of my. I mean, he was one of the, because he was when I first moved here. He was one of my favorite people, like, to go see.
And I used to come up here just to see him and Jason Martin play together.
I was like idolized him, and it's just wild to look back where it's like if he doesn't make it, we're all screwed.
Right. Yeah. That's no doubt about it.
I think me and Satterfield listened to his record while we were over in Germany this past month more than anything else. So he's so talented.
He's
such
so
a good dude too.
Shout out Dave Bournet. Check him out.
And go check out his record, because it's really, really good.
That's right.
So I know you're still you're doing the music thing. You've done the reality TV thing, and got your hands in a bunch of stuff on that side of things. But I know you've also kind of dipped your toes in the podcast world a little bit.
Yeah,
or
so
if you could share some of that with us.
I've been producing, so it's fun to be on the other side of the mic right now. A good friend of mine, Jason Tardik, was on the Bachelor and pivoted out of that. He was a finance guy, and so his podcast is called Trading Secrets, and I've been co-producing that for about the last 2 years. And we've pretty consistently kept that in the top 25 of business podcasts, which has been like really cool. I mean, they definitely had momentum before I came in, so it was cool to see how things can operate on that level, like where it was like even like weekly Zoom calls with like 10 people brainstorming like what's going viral, like just how thorough they were on something like that. Kind of opened my eyes to how much there can be going on behind the scenes with some of these major podcasts. And then they also run an agency that does a lot of brand partnership stuff. So like going out and sourcing ads for podcasts as well. So it's been interesting to kind of learn. There's a lot of overlaps with the music world still too, with like making sure you're up to date, making sure you're talking about current things, all this stuff. But it's been fun because I came from the audio engineering background. My dad was an audio engineer in Chicago, so I've always kind of geeked out over the technical side of it. So I've enjoyed kind of learning more of the video side of it, but and then just capturing the audio has kind of been my role, and I've slowly just tried to absorb more and more responsibility as we go. But
I mean, like when we were getting into this, you know, I was thinking to myself like overconfident and like, oh, I know the music business, and you're right. There's a lot of things that overlap, but then there's also so much,
that doesn't.
I had no clue about that goes into it, and it really is a full-time job. Just trying to keep things
10
straight.
full-time jobs. There's every facet of what we're doing now is, if we were in a perfect scenario with a big bag of money, there'd be a full-time position for like 10 people.
Yeah.
Even
just keeping guests, maintaining guests is hard. It's getting clips, like making sure the clips for socials are done, all that kind of stuff. So
it seems like the algorithms are always changing, and just trying to keep your ear to the ground and, being aware of trends and what's working, what's not. And it seems like Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, Facebook too. It's like, it's always changing.
And YouTube Shorts, and now Spotify's got a Shorts thing for video, or it's like can't keep up. It's like, it's nauseating to keep up with all of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I mean, it's also very fulfilling, I think, to, kind of take your savvy and what you've learned, and at least on the music side for me, and try to implement that and put things into place. But then also realizing, wow, I'm not nearly as good at this as I thought I would be.
It's another market that everyone has been saying has been oversaturated for like 6 years now, and just continues to grow, and companies just continue to dump more and more money into podcast advertising. So it's like, it seems like it's doing just fine. Even people that have asked about starting a new podcast in Nashville, I tell them, the more you can niche down whatever genre it is, the more head start you're going to get. But don't be overwhelmed that you're late, because that's you're not. There's so much room for podcasts to still explode.
And you think about it, I mean, what has it been a thing for maybe 8 to 10 years, and then really more the last 5, where it's really been where people primarily go for their information. So you're not late, dude. I mean, damn, yes, it is saturated, but that's only because anybody can do it. I mean, and I don't mean anybody can do it. I mean, with limited resources, you can put out an episode. If you can get a camera and a mic, you can put out episodes.
Well, there's also a stat that it was 90-something% don't put out more than 4 episodes.
Now I believe that.
They quit after 4 episodes, which that's another big piece of advice, where it's have at least 8 to 20 episodes in the can before you launch, because the biggest 9 out of 10 quit because they just don't keep up with content.
Right. So I think on the surface, when you look at it, it's oh, well, anybody can just go sit in a room and talk, but even in doing research on guests that we've had on already, it's I'll go watch 3 or 4 different episodes of different podcasts that they've been on, and I feel like I learned something completely new on each episode. And I guess that goes to the credit to the hosts, but then also an artist might be feeling one way one day and a totally different way the next, and it's you get a completely different interview and you see different sides of them. And I think as a fan of an artist, when I go listen, it's I'll go listen to the same person say the same thing 5 different ways on 5 different podcasts, and I really feel like I get a true understanding of who they are as an artist, their artistry, their songwriting, and even emotionally, because certain people are able to pull different things out of people. And it's been really cool. Initially, I didn't really necessarily watch a lot of that style of podcast before. I just always kind of had my few go-tos, but now I'm finding myself really diving into other people's podcasts, just because I'm learning a lot about life, about artistry, about different artists,
and just learning your own style as an interviewer too. To figuring out what you naturally tend towards, and just try not to I mean, because it's that's cool to me too, is even editing his. I see them now for almost 2 years, and it's watching him grow as an interviewer, and shift and kind of adapt to things is cool to see someone grow. And it's you guys are already naturals, so you're crushing it.
Well, I think there's an artistry in that by itself.
Oh yeah.
And I think I was completely unaware of that. And I figured, I've done thousands of radio interviews and print interviews and all other kinds of things, but it pulls different things out of you, and it forces you to grow and really learn a lot about yourself, which I've been pleasantly surprised with.
Yeah, I think we've been lucky to have each other too. I mean, he has a really diverse background, and then I'm really good at running my mouth. So, we feed off each other, and then I think the first episode we got together and we wrote the show in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we're like, it shouldn't have been that easy. Like,
Right.
you know, like for most people, it probably wouldn't be.
Right.
Like, so maybe we're onto something here, you know, like maybe we, you know, do have a talent for this. You know, it's pretty cool to find stuff you're talented at 45 years old, you
Yeah.
know, like something I didn't know I had in me.
And you have the network of guests. I mean, because that's another
The
huge
other-
hurdle.
the
And
other
you guys
side.
have that. Like, you got people lined up.
Yeah.
So.
And then it's been cool. I mean, the first, you know, 15 guests that we've had have all just, you know, been personal relationships, people that I've been on the road with, people that, you know, from the bars, through Steve, through Irv. Like, there's just,
That's
you're right,
awesome.
we have a cool network of people that we can kind of pull from. And then
It makes it easy to talk to them.
It
too,
does,
you know?
yeah.
Like, it's like, dude,
it's like
we
catching
have
up with an old friend.
all these stories to tell. Like,
And
let's
then
do it.
getting them to share on their socials, and it's like that's all
Yeah.
it takes.
Yeah.
It's like getting a couple of those.
That's what's
those
been
clickbait.
That's what's
Yeah.
been a
answers.
little tougher. Like I don't think, like I think because we're friends with them, they're kind of like, oh,
They're putting their guard down and saying stuff they shouldn't.
or I, you know, it's like I did that for my buddies.
Yeah.
So
Right.
like we don't like they don't accept the collab invite.
Right.
I'm calling you fuckers out right now. By the way. Accept the invite.
I won't say names.
Um,
I'll accept.
Yeah, thank you. Gurney. But yeah, like, you know, and that's like I said, I don't think it's like they're not like, oh, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
I think it's like, oh, they're my buddies. It's not that big a
Right,
deal.
right.
Like, but it is to us.
Yeah. But then also, like, I
I respect it.
I respect it because
Yeah.
also they're going on other podcasts,
Right.
and if they accept ours, then it's like, well, why did
Yeah,
you do
yeah,
it for
yeah,
those
yeah.
guys?
Now
but
you've
you
done it
haven't
30
collaborated
times
with
in a
us?
month,
Yeah.
and
Right,
it's
right.
convoluted.
Yeah, now your page just turns
Yeah.
into snippets of
Right.
podcasts. Yeah,
Which is
as
that's
an
what,
artist.
that's what mine has turned
Right,
into.
right.
Like I
Yeah.
tried to keep it so clean for so
Yeah.
long,
Which
and
is
keep
funny,
it a certain
'cause
way.
me
but
being a nobody, that works in reverse for me.
Yeah.
People now think I'm important when I'm not. And they're like, "Oh, dude, you're doing all this awesome stuff." I'm
That's
like, "Yeah, I'm still
yeah.
broke, and I'm still
like-
just grinding
Yeah.
like the rest
You're
of you
like
fools."
interviews every day.
Yeah,
but it's cool. I think it's like even my own social media. It shows like that I'm
Yep.
doing something different, and but also, you know, just spend a month touring, playing music with
Yep.
Steven in Satterfield in Europe. So it's like
Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
obviously
and
still doing that
that's
stuff
what's cool
too.
too. That's like what I've had to overcome myself is like it's okay. Like doing other things outside of music does not like diminish the music
Right.
brand. Like, and that's where that was like a huge thing that I had to like get over as a hurdle. Like I felt like less than as an artist. Like even
Yeah.
like embarrassed to have people know that I was doing like side jobs and stuff. Like trying to keep up the like the facade or whatever. And it's like.
Yeah.
Nobody gives a shit. Like
No,
that's all
no.
in your. That's
But
all
in
in
the
your head.
And if
reality-
anything, it's more endearing. I think.
yeah.
well, that and in reality, like other than like, you know, a big name artist, like even the guys that are in their working band, some of them
Oh,
are
yeah.
coming home and going to jobs.
100%.
Like,
yeah.
so, dude, there's definitely no
Yeah.
reason to be embarrassed there. And also that, like, all those experiences and things just make you more well-rounded
Yep.
as a human.
Absolutely.
And that's going to make you more well-rounded
Yep.
as a musician,
Yep.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Life experiences is where the best music
Yep.
comes from.
Well, yeah, you got more material to write
Right,
about.
that's right.
You're meeting new people. You're able to collaborate with people on a
Right.
different level, and
Yep.
you never know what,
Yeah.
you know, just a random meeting with someone or anything. It can open incredible doors. And
Absolutely.
I think like you said, I was very resistant to that because
Yeah.
I was like, I've worked so hard to maintain this
Yeah,
facade, and I
right.
want people to think that I only do music and
Right.
make a living doing music.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm more excited now about the other opportunities than I've
Right.
ever been,
Yeah.
just because I feel like it all helps
It all
the other
it all
thing.
carries
so.
over. Yep.
Heck yeah.
So what are your next moves?
So next move, so that was the thing. I kind of took almost like 2 years of just kind of, like you were saying, exploring other things. My hiatus was maybe a little too longer than
Right.
it should have been because I feel like I'm starting almost from scratch with music again. But I've got 7 songs done. Doing a song this year every like 4 to 6 weeks is my
Nice.
strategy. Next song's coming out the last Friday of April. I think that's April 25th. Song
Heck
called
yeah.
"Love by You." That's the one that I sent you this morning.
Great.
It's
Loved it.
more. It's an acoustic, kind of a departure from some of the pop stuff that I've done.
Yeah.
It's a little more acoustic driven, but yeah, I'm stoked to kind of start rolling out.
Are you
some
producing
things.
and recording that stuff yourself, or are you working with?
So John Vesley,
Yeah.
who's coming in tomorrow, but yeah, secondhand Serenade John. He's produced or co-produced, I'd say probably like 80% of what I've put out. Chris LaCourte has done some of them
Nice.
as well. I don't know if you know Chris,
Yep.
but yeah, John's kind of been mentoring me in the production stuff. So these are 2 of them are going to be the first 2 that I've produced myself.
Cool.
So out of these, so
That's
that was
awesome.
another big like hurdle that I had to like
Yeah.
overcome, because I was just like, anything I record myself, I like just criticize it to a
Dude,
pulp.
I'm
Yeah.
the same
And
way.
so yeah, so that's been a good hurdle, and will be help money wise also in
Yeah.
the long run, being able to record my own stuff.
Yeah, that
So
was always a huge thing for me to get over,
Yeah.
like, because like I produce stuff for other artists
Yeah.
and projects. I'm super proud of it, but
Yeah.
I don't know, for whatever reason, like with me and Steven and Love and Theft,
I'm the same
like
way.
we'd always worked with a big producer that you
Yeah.
know had all kinds of accolades, and I almost felt like I had imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, I have to have someone else mix it. I have to have someone else play
Right,
on it just
right,
to
right. Yeah.
to check those boxes. And
Right.
you know, I had people coming to me like, you do know this is plenty. This is
This is
just as
done.
good. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
finally released a project that you know I had produced, and
That's
I felt like that was gonna like change things, and I would lose that feeling, and I still feel the same
really.
way. It's like, I mean, I'm probably more confident than I've ever been, but
Yeah.
I still just
So
question
did you
everything I
produce
do.
the last Love and Theft project?
Yep.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, I heard that, so that sounded
Oh,
great.
well, thank you.
I didn't
Thank you.
notice the difference in sound
Thank-
quality.
Thank goodness. But same thing. It's like I've always
Yeah.
been like a student of the engineering process and sonically needing it to be perfect. But now you listen to what's on the radio, you listen to like Zach Bryan and other people. It's like these
Yeah.
incredibly raw, flawed records
Yep.
that people are putting out, and it's almost like people like that more than the slick, polished
Right.
kind of Nashville
true.
sound that I was just kind of conditioned to think that everything had to have. So
Yeah.
it's been cool to see other people doing that,
Right.
putting out stuff that isn't perfect, and I
Yeah.
think that's what gives it so much character, and people
Even like
gravitate
acoustic
to it.
versions of songs that
Yep.
you like wind up seeing go more viral, and you're like,
Yep.
all that stuff is like, okay, maybe we can, like, there is a human element to like having some of these little
Yeah,
like
for sure.
flawed, like everything's not quantized and on the grid and perfect,
Right.
and it's like gives it a human element that is
Yeah.
relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my ego probably is a big part of that,
Yeah.
and just false expectations
Yeah.
and things that I think need to be a certain way. And I've tried to stab my ego to death to
Right,
try
right,
to
right.
get rid of that. But it's, things just don't always leave when you want them to.
Yeah.
So.
No doubt. Shit, I just lost my train of thought. I had to get.
Nothing.
No idea.
That is
Nothing.
out.
Smoked too much weed.
Gone.
It's a goner.
Yeah, that happens. That happens to me too often.
Yeah.
Probably. Normally not when I took my mushrooms this morning. normally I'm pretty
Normally right on-
Conversation's
right
been
on point.
flowing.
Yeah. I guess going back to the reality TV show, obviously, Shannon's your ex. How tough was that to navigate, like the end of that relationship and trying to, probably, keep it amicable and still with somebody who has such a large following
Yeah.
on social media. I'm sure that, and I know you guys cared about each other a great deal.
Yeah.
It's probably very difficult.
Yeah, we were friends for a long time before we dated, which I think made maybe the departure a little bit easier, because we had I knew more of that side of her even than us dating, like at that point, because we had been friends for 4 or 5 years or something before we started
Previous,
dating.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously never easy, and it was one of those where we knew we were in each other's corner. We made that very clear, and I
That's
still
good.
would go out and on Broadway and get people saying that I was Shannon's ex-boyfriend. That part of it was
Right.
I had to just take that on the chin.
Yeah, that's tough. That's
taking
tough.
that on the chin for a couple months wasn't fun, but honestly, it was. I know everybody says that it was cordial and the split was good, but that one really was.
It really was,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was still even just talk to her parents every once in a while, that kind of stuff. So
Well, that's great to hear
Yeah.
because knowing you and knowing her both, I mean, both are good people.
yeah.
At the end of the day, some things just don't work out,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
And it was a fun ride.
Yeah.
it was-
You got some good stories to tell,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I remember when I found out that y'all were dating, I got excited. I was like, yeah, that makes perfect
Really?
sense. They've always been in the same
Yeah,
circle.
yeah.
was it a thing? I never watched the show, but I feel like it was a thing that they thought she would date somebody else on the show.
It was Worth Campbell who
Worth, that's
who's
right.
now married with 2 kids. But yeah, I think one of the episodes was called the Love Triangle or something, and we shot it at Losers.
Oh.
This is actually a great story.
That's awesome.
I ripped. So this was my only actual scene that they got me, where the producers duped me, because they got the shot they wanted where I ripped my mic off and I was like, fuck you, I'm out of here. And like, they made it seem like I was like pointing at people on the show, but I was like talking to the producers.
Oh, damn.
So the whole thing, because like they kept coming over to the table and like telling people to ask me certain questions, and I like saw what they were doing, and I got pissed off, and I just like took my mic off and stormed out. And I was like, because that was the worst thing I could do, because then they could just chop it up and edit it
tell whatever story they want.
I gave them everything they wanted, and they had been serving me drinks all day, so I finally just lost my cool and was like, I'm fucking out of here. But yeah, that was because they were trying
losers. That's
they
awesome.
were like trying to pin me and Worth against each other to make it seem like we were both fighting over Shannon.
Yeah, and I mean, knowing you're like the opposite of that.
Yeah, Worth and I wound up becoming like best friends out of the show. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Is there any truth to the fact that Shannon knew that she was going to get fired on the show and the way she handled it? Which seemed pretty.
So no, I think she was pretty blindsided with that. Yeah, I think she was like genuinely hurt by like how all that was, because I think she knew like eventually that it was gonna happen, but I mean there was so much kind of manipulation behind the scenes that I think she kind of, her heart was in the right place and was like trusting what they were saying is true, and then she went in and got kind of caught off guard, which sucks.
That does suck.
It's the person at the top of that heap seems to be a little inconsistent as a human being.
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk a bunch of shit about somebody.
And
but
her and Kristen have, I think, since at least somewhat made up. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I mean, in watching it, just because we had so many friends that were on it, and I mean, I thought she was the best part of the show.
Oh, 100%.
Not that you weren't, but
no, I was happy to be.
She definitely stole the show.
I was happy to be a background character in that show.
Yeah.
Well, it almost seemed like she stole the spotlight from Kristen in a sense.
Yeah.
And
I think that was part of it.
I think that's what it seemed like, at least.
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree. And it's, I just watched her. Kristen went on some podcast and was just, I don't know. It's to me, there's certain things you don't talk about, and she's just like talking about banging Morgan Wallen like on the podcast.
She has,
and I'm like, dude, you have kids, you have an ex-husband. I mean, which whatever about him, but like, to me, it's just like, man, that was fucking inappropriate. And then like being somebody who's been around celebrities and has a bunch of experiences, like I know which ones I can share and which ones I can't. I'm not going to share.
That's that LA mentality versus the Nashville mentality. That's all it boils down to.
Yeah.
Like,
that's a good point.
But I don't even know. I think Shannon would be cool with this story, but this is my favorite story, is that when they asked her back to come on season 2 after the firing, and she said, "I'll come back if you pay me $1 more than Kristen per episode." Was the email response, and I was like, "That is."
Well, she doesn't have a dick, but that was dropping your dick on the table right there.
That's the greatest response you could possibly do.
That's
really funny.
And then, so there was no season 2.
Well, kudos to Shannon.
That's how she rode off.
Sticking to her guns.
Good for her.
Rode off into the sunset.
I like that. That's awesome. Shannon's always been super kind to me. I was just talking to my wife about her earlier, and it's like every time I see her, she like runs up and gives me a big hug, and I'm like,
well, yeah, her and
why do you like me so much? She's just she's just a nice person.
She is.
Yeah, and I love the fact that she just like what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes back to the authenticity thing. It's just like,
that's why people like
it. Yeah, and like anyone I know that is friends with her, it's like they're thick as thieves, like real friends.
Yeah. And that's probably the reason her podcast is going so well.
Yep.
I don't know. Is she still cranking out?
She's pivoting into the stand-up thing, I think, a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's seems like
that'd be interesting.
Yeah. So,
very cool. Is Chase Lauer managing you in any?
Yeah. So he's managing me still. We definitely have like, it's a looser. I mean, he's like my best friend in the world. So now it's like
we're all in a fraternity together.
So we weren't in the fraternity, but we both went to University of Missouri.
Okay.
We moved here at the same time. So then, because him and Todd were kind of co-managing in 2020-ish whenever we put music out. So he's just one of those. It's like blood brother for life. So it's just like now, like even the other day we were shooting new promo stuff because he's always on me. He's like, you haven't taken a real photo in like 4 years.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's go.
That's awesome.
Let's go take some new pictures.
You can't find anybody better to do it.
Yeah, he's the best. So.
Oh, I will say also that video you posted the other night, like that real.
Oh, that was me in my room. Satterfield texted me about that too.
Like you just showed it to me. You're like, we both commented on it at the same time. We're like, this is really good.
I've been trying to dabble in the video editing, so we'll see. I've got a lot to learn, but I don't know. I'm like a big geek about like vintage Western clothing and stuff too. I love that, so it's like merging that with the video side of it for fashion, music, and.
He also told me that you've had some superstars sliding into your DMs lately. So I won't say who.
I don't know about that. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if I'm working that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, good luck.
Yeah.
That'd be a good one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Cool. Well,
Hey.
appreciate you coming on. Thank you for
Thank you
sitting
for
down
having
with
me.
us.
I'm honored to be here with you guys.
Yeah, guys, make sure you look for Gurney's new music coming out. You know, you said last
Last
Friday,
I should
April.
know what it was. Yeah, April 25th, I believe. A song called "Loved by You." It's one that I'm super proud of, and wrote it by myself. And that was kind of when I was just. It was like manifesting the wife that I saw in the future. That's kind of the song almost started as like a writing exercise where I was like writing almost what I wanted in a partner, and then it morphed into a song. So it's kind of
That's awesome. And then you got what, 6 or 7? You say?
Yeah, 6 or 7. Okay, I'm actually leaving here to go over to John Besley, my producer's house, to work on some more new stuff. So
Heck yeah, man. You guys keep an eye out for him. Big things coming for this guy.
hey, thank you, boys.
Couldn't happen to a better person either.
Thank you guys.
Appreciate
so much.
you, man.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.